Stoicism teaches that happiness is not something to chase, it is something to practice. It is not tied to wealth, status, or ease. It comes from the way we respond to the world. It comes from training the mind to align with nature, reason, and virtue. Every day, you have the chance to be happy, because your perspective is disciplined, because you choose your values over your moods, because you root your peace in what you can control. This is the foundation of Stoic joy. It is real, stable, and daily. It does not fade with discomfort. It does not vanish with stress. It is earned through clarity, reflection, and action. This video will show you how to live that way. Each chapter is a step toward building a mindset that can meet the day with calm, strength, and meaning. You do not need to wait for happiness. You can train for it. Starting now. Chapter 1. Happiness comes from within. Epictetus said, "There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond our power." The Stoics believed that true happiness can only come from within. They observed that external conditions, wealth, praise, comfort, status, are unstable. They change constantly and are shaped by forces outside our influence. If someone places their sense of peace or fulfillment in those conditions, their peace will shift and collapse with every change. Their emotional state will rise and fall depending on how the world treats them, not based on what they can choose or control. This creates a fragile and reactive life. The Stoics taught that a stable and lasting form of happiness must be built on what is always within reach, our own mind. They believed happiness is formed by living in accordance with values like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These are choices we can make regardless of circumstance. This kind of happiness is not held in someone else's hands. It is not delayed by outside events. It is grounded in self-governance. A central idea in Stoic training is to narrow your focus to what is truly up to you. You cannot decide how other people think, speak, or act. You cannot prevent changes in your health, your reputation, or the environment. You cannot direct the course of time or control random events, but you can shape your reactions. You can respond to insult with patience. You can respond to pressure with composure. You can respond to temptation with discipline. These actions are within your command. Mastery over them builds strength and freedom. A person who chooses calm over complaint is not waiting for the world to change. They are using their power rightly. A person who chooses honesty over image is not gambling their worth on public approval. They are securing their peace in character. These choices are always available. They are the foundation of inner freedom. When you live in alignment with your own principles, when your conscience is clear, when your thoughts are guided by reason, you gain peace. This peace is not occasional. It becomes your baseline. The Stoics did not treat happiness as a separate goal. They believed it naturally arises from a life of integrity. When you are doing what you believe is right, when your thoughts are steady, and when your actions reflect your values, you experience a quiet strength. There is no need to search for joy in distraction or indulgence. Joy emerges as a result of clear thinking and right action. It is built moment by moment through self-mastery. The mind is not designed to flourish in confusion and chaos. It seeks structure. It seeks meaning. It performs best when it is focused, when it operates according to reason, and when it is not pulled in every direction by unchecked emotions. Left untrained, the mind becomes a source of suffering. It creates stories, assumptions, fears, and expectations that cloud judgment and create needless anxiety. But when you train the mind, when you examine your desires, question your assumptions, and remove distortions, you reduce that suffering. Happiness is not the reward of wishing for peace. It is the result of mental discipline. Each time you respond to difficulty with clarity, you train the mind. Each time you return your focus to what matters, you restore your strength. Each time you choose virtue over ease, you align yourself with nature. Over time, these small acts create a foundation of lasting peace. That peace is what the Stoics meant by happiness. It is steady, it is earned, and it is always within your power. Start each morning with a short reflection. Ask yourself, what is in my control today? What virtues can I practice? What noise can I ignore? This practice builds clarity. It removes clutter. It sets the tone for the day. Chapter 2. Accept the flow of life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs?" To the Stoics, life is a continuous unfolding of events. It is a process of change governed by nature. Circumstances arise, people speak and act, conditions improve or decline. These shifts occur with or without your consent. You can choose to resist these shifts and create tension within yourself, or you can recognize them as part of life's design and adapt your response. The choice is always present. Alignment with this truth allows you to participate in life without unnecessary distress. Active alignment means accepting what comes without losing your ability to act within it. It does not imply disengagement or indifference. It means recognizing your responsibilities and fulfilling them within the framework of reality. You do your best in every role you occupy, with clarity, commitment, and care. Once you have acted within your role, you do not carry the burden of results. You return to what you can still influence and release what has passed. Nature operates on its own principles. It does not pause for comfort or convenience. The Stoics observed that the world is indifferent to individual preferences. Illness, aging, and death occur regardless of desire. Markets rise and fall. Relationships begin and end. The sun sets and seasons turn without intention. None of these events are directed at you personally. They follow the order of nature. When you treat events as if they are aimed at you, you create unnecessary emotional turmoil. You label things as unfair, even though fairness is not part of the natural process. Storms do not target. Obstacles do not judge. They appear because of conditions beyond your control. The Stoic mindset teaches you to respond to them with skill rather than complaint. You become adaptable. You learn to think clearly even in discomfort. You develop strength from contact with difficulty. Much of human suffering does not come from external events. It arises from internal resistance. When you expect permanence in a world that changes, you experience disappointment. When you demand ease in a system that includes struggle, you feel cheated. When you chase after what cannot be held, you create anxiety. But when you recognize that everything is part of a flowing process, you begin to move with it. You stop clinging. You stop bracing. You begin to observe, reflect, and engage from a place of balance. Acceptance, in the Stoic view, is not the same as passivity. It is a rational adjustment to reality. It is clarity about what can and cannot be changed. It is a calm orientation toward truth. Through acceptance, the mind conserves its energy for what is useful. It directs thought toward action. It remains available for learning. It lets go of the impossible and holds firm to the necessary. Peace is not created by overpowering the world. It is developed by understanding your place within it. You are one part of a greater whole. Your choices matter, but they exist within limits. The more clearly you see this, the less you waste energy on resistance. You shift your attention to mastery of self, not the manipulation of circumstances. By practicing this mindset, you reduce internal conflict. You respond to setbacks with discipline. You return to principle in moments of confusion. You remain steady when things break or change, and from that steadiness, happiness becomes possible. It becomes something formed from clarity, not chance. Throughout your day, repeat this phrase when facing setbacks. I did not expect control, I prepared for response. This simple reminder will ground your reactions. It will restore your power. Chapter 3. Discipline of Desire and Aversion. Epictetus taught that we must train ourselves to desire only what is in our control and to be averse only to what is within our power to avoid. This principle forms a foundation for Stoic discipline. It requires a close examination of where you place your energy and attention. Desires can stretch far beyond your reach, toward outcomes, reactions, possessions, or recognition. Aversions can also become irrational, especially when they center on things outside your influence. When this happens, your internal state becomes dependent on forces you cannot govern. This leads to constant anxiety and dissatisfaction. Happiness is disturbed when you allow your peace to depend on what lies beyond your authority. The mind becomes preoccupied with hopes that do not materialize or fears that cannot be escaped. You suffer twice, once from the event and once from your interpretation of it. The Stoics trained themselves to draw a clear boundary between what is theirs and what is not. Only what is theirs deserves concern. This creates focus, strength, and clarity. Desires that aim at wealth, praise, comfort, or outcomes often invite emotional instability. You may get what you want for a moment, but you remain dependent on that condition continuing. If it fades, your peace fades with it. On the other side, fears directed at death, loss, criticism, or failure often paralyze action. They fill the mind with confusion and prevent rational movement forward. The Stoic discipline of desire and aversion reduces this instability by filtering what is worth emotional investment. By narrowing your desires to what you can actually affect, your decisions, your judgments, your speech, your conduct, you gain greater strength. These are within your full control. They respond to your will. When your sense of fulfillment depends on them, you are stable. You are responsible for what matters, and you no longer need to wait for life to cooperate with your preferences. In the same way, fears become manageable when limited to what you can reasonably prevent. You are not disturbed by the weather, by the market, or by aging. These events unfold without your input. You focus instead on how you respond, with courage, reason, and endurance. That focus directs your mind toward preparation rather than anxiety. This clarity creates space in the mind. It removes clutter and frees your energy for practical choices. You stop reacting to every stimulus. You stop exhausting yourself in battles that cannot be influenced. You place your energy where it has value and where it strengthens your resolve. The Stoic does not attempt to remove emotion. They learn how to understand and guide it. Emotion is often shaped by belief. When beliefs are mistaken, emotions become unstable. The Stoic reflects on the connection between thought and feeling. When you believe you need permanence, you become afraid of change. When you assume praise confirms your worth, you become dependent on approval. These ideas shape how you feel. When you examine and correct them, your emotions follow. This process is a kind of mental alignment. You refine your beliefs through honest thinking. You replace vague assumptions with clear principles. As your beliefs strengthen, your emotional reactions become more consistent. You do not shift with every result. You do not depend on external feedback to decide how you feel. You build a base within yourself. That base becomes your reference point. Your mood reflects your commitment to principle. Your identity is guided by your values. This is the early stage of freedom. Freedom is not escape from pressure. It is mastery of inner response. It is the ability to choose behavior based on reason. When you feel overwhelmed, you stop and assess. When you feel insulted, you check your impulse and think clearly. This practice becomes more natural over time. You recognize what lies inside your authority. You ignore what does not. You move with clarity instead of confusion. Freedom allows you to speak with intention, to act with steadiness, and to remain anchored when circumstances shift. It is built by doing the same simple thing repeatedly, turning your attention inward, identifying your role, and taking responsibility for your mind. Each moment becomes a chance to reset your focus. Each interaction becomes an opportunity to respond deliberately. Living from the inside out means organizing your day around what belongs to you. You design your experience by setting priorities. You ask what kind of presence you want to bring into each situation. You identify the habits that serve you. You follow a standard that you've chosen consciously. This is the core of Stoic happiness. It is structured around constancy. It is supported by discipline. It is strengthened by attention to detail. At the end of each day, take time to examine your desires and fears. Write them down in a journal. Identify whether they are based on things within your influence. Label each as internal or external. Ask what patterns you notice. Are you chasing outcomes? Are you resisting events that cannot be changed? Are you holding yourself to someone else's standards? These questions clarify your path. They help you reclaim energy. They show you where your attention has drifted. Remind yourself daily where your authority lies. It lies in your thoughts, your choices, your words, and your reactions. That is where your training happens. That is where progress is made. This shift of attention builds mental quiet. It sharpens awareness. It turns reflection into strength and builds the kind of stability that does not depend on the behavior of others or the outcome of events. Chapter 4. Your thoughts shape your life. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. What you think about all day shapes your experience. Your thoughts create the framework through which you interpret every event. When you spend your day focused on what is missing, what went wrong, or what might go wrong, your perception becomes narrow and heavy. This kind of mental focus feeds frustration, doubt, and anxiety. It reduces your capacity to see opportunity or to act with strength. If you instead give attention to what is within your influence, your actions, your choices, your values, your inner world becomes more stable, the mind becomes more ordered, and the emotions more grounded. Thought is the starting point of all behavior. Every decision begins with a mental impression, a belief, or a conclusion. If the thought is distorted, the behavior that follows will reflect that distortion. If the thought is clear and examined, the action will be more deliberate. The Stoics placed great importance on this process. They trained themselves to begin with thought, to filter it, and to refine it before acting. This daily training formed the basis of their discipline. Clarity comes from honesty with the self. The Stoic challenges what they assume to be true. They inspect beliefs that guide their actions. A person may believe they are only valuable if they are admired. This belief then dictates their speech, behavior, and mood. It creates dependence. If they are not admired, they feel worthless. Another person may believe they are only secure when everything goes according to plan. When the plan shifts, they experience panic. In both cases, the belief is creating suffering. The Stoic learns to examine the link between belief and emotion. They do not take their thoughts at face value. They study them. They ask, is this thought accurate? Is it useful? Is it based on reality or fear? This mental habit creates resilience. It prevents the mind from falling into repetitive patterns that cause distress. It also builds strength over time. Each examined thought becomes a small improvement in judgment. The mind must be managed with care. When left unobserved, it tends to drift toward what is dramatic, urgent, or irrational. The Stoic does not try to suppress the mind. They guide it. They learn to recognize when it is distracted or influenced by external noise. They notice when emotion is coloring their interpretation. They bring the mind back to what is stable: truth, logic, and virtue. This redirection is not always easy, but it becomes a skill through repetition. The more the Stoic practices this discipline, the more accurate their vision becomes. They learn to observe events without adding false stories. They stop exaggerating problems. They stop assigning malicious intent to people's actions. They stop assuming the worst about the future. This shift in perception does not eliminate difficulty. It allows the person to see difficulty with a calm and prepared mind. This clarity forms a kind of inner light. The person is no longer easily shaken. They do not waste energy on what is imagined. They use their thoughts as tools, not as threats. They respond to challenges with a clear mind, not a scattered one. When they notice their thoughts drifting into worry, envy, or blame, they bring them back. They ask what is useful. They ask what is good. They ask what is within their responsibility. This habit slowly changes how they experience each day. The world outside may remain unstable, but the world within becomes steady. That steadiness is built thought by thought. It is strengthened by every moment of honest reflection. It is reinforced each time the person chooses to correct a belief instead of feeding a fear. This is how thought shapes life, not by what it predicts, but by how it prepares the mind to act. Each morning, choose one Stoic phrase or quote. Write it down. Repeat it throughout the day. Let it guide your thinking. Over time, this daily anchoring will refine your mindset. Chapter 5. Live according to nature. To live according to nature means to live in line with reason, virtue, and your role as a human being. It means using your rational mind to understand what is right and then acting on that understanding. It means approaching each situation with honesty, self-control, courage, and fairness. These are not abstract ideas. They are practical expressions of your human capacity. To live this way, you must first understand that you are part of nature. Nature is not a separate system. It includes you, your body, your thoughts, your community, and your responsibilities. It includes the world and everything in it: weather, time, aging, suffering, and death. Nature unfolds constantly. Life moves forward through seasons, through events, through cycles of change. You are part of that movement. The Stoics believed that the wise person does not fight against the natural process. They believed in observing how things are, accepting their structure, and contributing to them with character. This does not mean passivity. It means participating with integrity. It means working with nature rather than attempting to bend it to your preferences. Every day brings you into contact with challenges, tasks, and decisions. These are the spaces where you live according to nature. When you act with reason and virtue within your situation, you fulfill your purpose. When you speak truthfully, when you carry out your responsibilities with care, when you respond to adversity with steady thinking, you are living according to your design. These actions are ordinary in appearance, but meaningful in result. They form the structure of a well-lived life. Happiness is not separate from this way of living. It grows from it. A person who acts with purpose experiences a deep sense of order. They feel connected to the present moment. They do not need ideal circumstances to feel satisfied. They need only to know that they are doing their work and staying faithful to what is right. Serving the greater good, staying honest in relationships, and doing meaningful tasks with presence are all examples of this alignment. To live according to nature also means to understand and accept your limits. Your body will age. Your plans may fail. People will misunderstand you. Life will not always match your expectations. The Stoic does not resist these truths. They prepare for them. They use them to sharpen their focus. They remind themselves that mortality is part of the structure. They accept that nothing is guaranteed. From that acceptance comes a sharper sense of what matters. Within those limits, however, lies great power. You have the ability to choose your thoughts. You have the ability to guide your speech and behavior. You have the power to be a source of strength and clarity to others. This internal power is reliable. It does not need approval. It does not fade with praise or criticism. It belongs to you fully, and it can be trained. The Stoic does not aim to escape difficulty. They see difficulty as part of the natural path toward growth. Just as a tree grows stronger and roots grow deeper through resistance to wind, a person becomes wiser through facing discomfort with clarity. Every hardship becomes material for self-improvement. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to practice endurance, patience, or reason. Living this way gives life direction. You are no longer scattered by random desires. You are guided by principle. You make decisions that reflect who you are, not who you want others to think you are. You stop chasing every impulse. You begin to move with steadiness. This form of living is not based on chance or emotion. It is structured. It is intentional. It allows for a peaceful relationship with life. You no longer demand ease. You meet the day as it comes and respond to it from your center. Each morning, pick one role you occupy: partner, parent, worker, leader, student, or friend. Ask yourself clearly and calmly, what does nature require of me in this role today? Consider the responsibilities that come with that role, the people it affects, and the values you want to uphold while fulfilling it. This creates intention at the start of your day. You begin with a sense of purpose that is linked to your character, not to outside approval or convenience. Then, as you move through your day, return to this guiding question. Check in with yourself during moments of pressure or uncertainty. Ask, am I still acting in accordance with my role? Am I maintaining composure? Am I practicing justice, patience, or courage in the face of difficulty? Treat each situation as part of your training. Each choice is a test of your principles. At the end of the day, look back and evaluate. Did you act justly in your role? Did you communicate with honesty and clarity? Did you show restraint when provoked, or wisdom when tempted to react impulsively? This reflection reinforces your standard. It helps you refine your focus for the next day. It shows you what needs improvement without self-judgment. It transforms your role from a list of tasks into an ongoing ethical practice. This process grounds you in daily purpose. It keeps you connected to your principles. It trains you to treat life as a continuous practice, measured by effort and integrity. You begin to see that fulfillment does not require perfection. It requires attention to what matters and steady progress in your chosen path. Chapter 6. The Power of Present Focus. The Stoics trained themselves to stay anchored in the present moment. They believed that peace is found through attention to the current task, not through reflection on the past or anticipation of the future. They focused their energy on what could be done now. Epictetus warned his students against becoming distracted by regret or fear. He urged them to focus on the present because it is the only place where choice and action exist. Marcus Aurelius, facing great pressures as emperor, reminded himself daily, do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about your neighbors. Be intent on what nature demands of you now. The present is where action lives. You cannot act in the past, and you cannot act in the future. Every decision, every movement, every word happens in the present. If your attention drifts away from the moment, your power weakens. When you replay events from yesterday or imagine disasters of tomorrow, your mind fragments. You lose energy to things that cannot be changed or predicted. This tension makes it difficult to fulfill your duties with precision. Planning is useful when it guides behavior. It helps structure your time and prepare your efforts. But when it becomes obsessive, it disrupts peace. The Stoics trained to distinguish planning from overthinking. They planned simply and acted fully. They did not allow plans to replace the present. They understood that no plan survives contact with reality unless you remain mentally flexible. That flexibility is only possible when you are present. Living in the present requires attention. It means directing your full awareness to what you are doing. When you are speaking, you listen carefully. When you are writing, you focus on each sentence. When you are eating, you slow down and taste the food. These acts are small, but they bring the mind into order. They reduce confusion. They train you to see your time as something to be used with care. The Stoics understood that each moment has moral weight. The way you spend your time reveals your character. If you live carelessly, jumping from distraction to distraction, you lose your grip on what matters. You lose time, but more than that, you lose yourself. Attention is not just about productivity, it is about dignity. To live with attention is to live with respect for your own life. Time is limited. It cannot be paused or refilled. Once a moment has passed, it is gone. The Stoics used this fact to sharpen their focus. They reminded themselves that each task could be their last. This was not meant to cause fear. It was meant to bring urgency and presence. When you understand that time is finite, you stop wasting it. You begin to treat ordinary actions as part of your larger purpose. Presence also strengthens your emotional life. When you live in the present, you reduce imaginary fears. You do not suffer from things that have not happened. You are less caught up in what others think. You are more interested in what is true now. You stop trying to predict outcomes. You focus on doing what is right today. This focus creates peace because it leaves little space for worry. Happiness is often lost in distraction. When your attention is split between many things, your sense of fulfillment declines. When you give full presence to one task at a time, you feel grounded. This does not depend on what you are doing. It depends on how you are doing it. The Stoics trained themselves to find meaning in the moment by bringing their values to every action. This made even the simplest work part of a meaningful life. Throughout your day, pause and ask, am I fully engaged in what I am doing? Is my attention grounded in this task, this person, this moment? Ask this question before meals, during work, and in conversation. If your mind has wandered, bring it back without judgment. Take one breath, feel your body, and return to the task. Repeat this often. With practice, your mind will drift less. You will build focus. You will begin to experience more calm and purpose in your everyday life. Chapter 7. The Discipline of Action. The Stoics placed a high value on taking deliberate action. They believed that knowledge must be put into practice to have meaning. Wisdom, in their view, was only useful if it translated into consistent behavior. Seneca reminded his readers that philosophy was not just a matter of words or theories, it was a tool for living well. He wrote, "Philosophy teaches us to act, not to speak. It prepares the mind to choose what is right and then act on that choice without hesitation." The Stoic does not delay right action while waiting for ideal conditions. They understand that conditions are often uncertain. They take the step that is available in the moment, using courage to overcome hesitation and clarity to cut through doubt. Each action is an expression of their character. Each moment is treated as a decision point that matters. Even small actions reflect internal discipline. Action brings clarity. You discover what is real by engaging with it. You learn more from experience than from prolonged speculation. When you act, you test your assumptions. You see what works and what does not. You build understanding through contact with life. Each time you step forward, you sharpen your skills and reinforce your principles. This is how you gain real strength. Deliberate action also shapes your sense of identity. When you act consistently with your values, your actions begin to define you. You no longer rely on temporary feelings to guide your choices. You no longer depend on motivation or inspiration. You develop structure through habit. You gain direction by choosing to move forward rather than waiting for the situation to improve. This builds reliability and reduces confusion. Avoiding action weakens the mind. The longer you hesitate, the more space you give to doubt and fear. Indecision expands when it is left unchecked. Procrastination creates a mental fog that blocks clear thinking. The Stoics trained themselves to act without delay when they knew what was right. This training was rooted in preparation. By reflecting on values daily, they were ready when the moment arrived. They did not rely on impulse, they relied on principle. This form of decisiveness does not involve rushing. It is not about speed, it is about direction. It involves knowing what matters most and giving it your attention. It means cutting through distractions and excuses. You ask yourself, what is the essential task in front of me? What action reflects my values right now? You then take that step without argument. Over time, this practice becomes a habit of mind. You stop delaying. You move directly into what matters. Deliberate action gives your day structure. It turns time into progress. You stop drifting between distractions. You stop measuring your life by good intentions. You begin to see how much your life is shaped by what you actually do. You learn to trust yourself because you act on your priorities. You are no longer guessing or waiting. You are choosing. Each completed action becomes proof of your commitment. Thought without action remains incomplete. Understanding is only partial if it stays in the mind. The Stoic closes this gap. They take what they know and put it into motion. They do not expect perfection. They expect effort. They use each action as a way to reinforce clarity. Even mistakes are used for learning. In this way, action becomes a tool for growth. At the start of each day, write down 3 meaningful actions that align with your values. Do this before distractions begin. Choose actions that reflect integrity, courage, or service. Complete them with full attention. Avoid multitasking. Focus on one task at a time. When finished, take a moment to reflect. Ask, did I act with clarity? Did I meet resistance with resolve? Did I use my time with purpose? Over time, this habit will sharpen your focus and reinforce your sense of direction. It will build a rhythm of movement that supports both inner peace and visible progress. Chapter 8. Endurance is built, not borrowed. The Stoics understood that life involves discomfort, effort, and loss. They did not expect to escape these experiences. Instead, they trained to endure them well. Endurance was not seen as passive suffering. It was the conscious decision to remain steady in difficulty, to remain calm during pressure, and to maintain virtue even when comfort was absent. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that he was made for the work of life. When he encountered pain, fatigue, or criticism, he did not ask for escape. He asked how he could respond with strength. Epictetus told his students that the true test of philosophy is not found in the classroom, but in illness, hardship, and conflict. These are the moments when your training shows. Endurance begins with preparation. The Stoic trains the mind daily by reflecting on potential setbacks and building internal stability. They expect friction. They know that people may behave poorly, that plans may change, that the body may weaken. Because they have prepared for these facts, they are not caught off guard. Their expectations are aligned with reality. This kind of mental readiness reduces unnecessary suffering. Pain may be present, but panic is not. Difficulty may arise, but despair is avoided. The Stoic separates what hurts from what harms. Pain is natural and often unavoidable. Harm is when you allow pain to distort your judgment, to break your principles, or to turn you against reason. This distinction gives you space to respond. Endurance is also built through voluntary discomfort. The Stoics practiced going without things they normally enjoyed. They walked in the cold. They ate simple food. They imagined loss. These exercises were not extreme. They were reminders. Reminders that comfort is a condition, not a guarantee. Reminders that your mind must remain steady even when your surroundings are not. Each time you choose patience over complaint, you reinforce your strength. You teach your mind to remain composed when events are unfavorable. When discomfort arises and you choose not to react with frustration, you strengthen your internal discipline. Each moment you practice steadiness adds a layer to your resilience. You stop responding to every inconvenience. You start observing your response and adjusting it to reflect control. Over time, this becomes a habit. It becomes part of who you are. You develop the ability to remain level-headed in situations that once triggered anxiety or irritation. Each time you remain focused under pressure, you train your attention. Instead of being pulled by distraction or emotion, you stay centered. This builds confidence. You learn that you can carry pressure without collapse. You become someone who does not need conditions to be easy to act with clarity. This stability shows in your behavior. You are consistent in your decisions, measured in your reactions, and dependable in your conduct. These changes are quiet, but they accumulate. They prepare you for the unexpected. They make you stronger, not through theory, but through repeated action. This process is gradual. It does not come from grand gestures. It comes from daily repetition. You learn to carry more weight by carrying a little more each day. You stop seeking comfort as a constant state. You begin to value the strength that comes from holding your ground. Endurance is developed this way, by small decisions, consistent effort, and honest reflection. You do not need ideal circumstances to become stronger. You need to commit to the process of improvement. The Stoic treats endurance as a way of life. It is not something to call upon only in crisis. It is something to practice in routine moments. Endurance is built through the choice to face discomfort when avoidance would be easier. It is built when you wake early to begin your day with discipline. It is built when you keep going even when you feel tired. It is built when you choose to be silent rather than argue unnecessarily. These choices condition the mind to remain stable and the body to follow with discipline. Choose one minor discomfort to endure each day. It could be waking earlier, working in silence, morning push-ups and sit-ups, walking without distraction, or delaying gratification. Keep it simple and intentional. These acts train your mental posture. They remind you that discomfort is not an emergency. They teach you how to remain clear under strain. After each exercise, reflect briefly. Ask, was I reactive or steady? Did I return to my breath when tempted to quit? Did I remain focused? Notice how the experience influenced your thinking. Observe whether your perspective became sharper or your emotions more manageable. These reflections help you measure your progress and understand where to improve. This practice builds a mindset capable of meeting difficulty without fear, fatigue without panic, and pressure without collapse. Chapter 9. Control your inner dialogue. The Stoics placed great importance on the quality of your inner dialogue. The way you speak to yourself shapes your emotions, your clarity, and your strength. Every day, thoughts pass through the mind, some helpful, some misleading. The Stoic trains to distinguish between them. They learn to speak to themselves with accuracy, with discipline, and with purpose. Epictetus advised his students to be aware of the narratives they create. If you tell yourself that something is unbearable, it becomes so. If you tell yourself that you cannot handle discomfort, you will resist growth. The Stoic pays close attention to the words they use in silence. This self-talk becomes the foundation of how they see the world and how they meet it. Language matters. The words you use in your internal dialogue affect your interpretation of events. When you describe a delay as a disaster or a mistake as a failure, you add unnecessary emotional weight. This shapes your response. You begin to feel overwhelmed, not because the event is severe, but because your language makes it feel that way. The Stoic avoids this distortion. They name things accurately. They recognize the difference between what is difficult and what is destructive. They resist using language that feeds helplessness or panic. Calling something a catastrophe when it is only inconvenient changes how you feel and how you act. A traffic jam becomes a crisis. A missed opportunity becomes a loss of purpose. These reactions come from words, not facts. Saying you are trapped when you are simply challenged removes your sense of choice. It shuts down your ability to respond with clarity. The Stoic trains to use words that reflect the situation honestly. This protects their emotional state and improves their judgment. Clear thinking depends on clear language. Vague or exaggerated terms create confusion. The mind follows the story it tells. If that story is irrational, the emotions and actions that follow will also be irrational. The Stoic corrects the story early. When a stressful thought appears, they pause. They replace exaggeration with fact. They examine assumptions. They ask if the thought reflects reason or impulse. They do not speak to themselves with flattery or avoidance. They aim for precision. This practice requires daily effort. You must notice how you speak to yourself. You must pause before repeating patterns that lead to stress or discouragement. When a reaction appears, blame, fear, self-pity, you examine its source. You ask, what am I assuming? What am I believing? What am I exaggerating? You then remove what is false and return to what is solid. This creates a stable internal posture. You do not erase the mind's activity. You train it through consistent observation and correction. You redirect it toward thoughts that support reason, discipline, and meaningful action. The mind will continue to generate thoughts, both useful and distracting. The Stoic does not expect silence. They expect self-command. This means recognizing when thoughts are helpful and when they are harmful. It means deciding which thoughts deserve your attention. When your inner dialogue reflects clear values, it gives you direction. It helps you stay steady during challenge and focused during uncertainty. Thoughts based on fear, imitation, or habit often create confusion. They repeat patterns you did not choose. They exaggerate problems, distort outcomes, and lead you away from clarity. The Stoic observes these thoughts early. They do not allow them to shape the entire emotional response. They intervene at the beginning. They ask whether a thought is useful, whether it is based in reason, and whether it aligns with their values. This kind of mental filtration keeps the mind focused on reality and grounded in what matters. This mental training builds a habit. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes. The mind begins to adopt a more rational tone. It no longer rushes into conclusions. It becomes a reliable inner guide. When stress arises, you pause and ask precise questions. You review the situation rather than react to it. When a negative pattern begins to form, you notice it. You step back. You look for your role, your responsibility, and your next action. This interrupts confusion. It gives space to reason. The mind stops fueling fear, anger, or pride and begins to support stability. Each correction strengthens your judgment. Each moment of awareness helps build emotional discipline. Over time, this becomes your default. You meet frustration with thought. You meet delay with patience. You meet insult with calm. These shifts come from consistent work, not from one insight, but from hundreds of small adjustments. These shifts turn your mind into a place of structure and support. You begin to develop a calm and ordered tone in your inner speech. You do not rely on harsh words to motivate yourself. You do not speak in extremes. You speak to yourself the way a trained Stoic would, clearly, briefly, and accurately. You stop reinforcing self-pity. You stop repeating stories that weaken your capacity to act. You begin to speak with the same discipline that you bring to your outer life. You move toward descriptions that remind you of your principles. You think in terms of roles and duties rather than feelings and assumptions. You begin to ask, what does this moment require? What part of this can I control? How can I act with integrity right now? This clarity helps you reduce internal conflict. You stop amplifying difficulties with your words. You stop multiplying pain through judgment. You stay with the facts and make your next move with purpose. Through this disciplined inner dialogue, you become more consistent. You do not depend on the world to calm your thoughts. You guide them yourself. That stability grows each time you return to reason. The clearer your internal voice becomes, the more effectively you live. The world remains unpredictable, but your inner life becomes steady. That steadiness becomes a lasting form of strength. Throughout your day, take note of your self-talk. Write down one moment when your thoughts helped you act wisely, and one moment when they led you toward fear or anger. Study both. What belief was behind each one? Practice replacing harmful patterns with neutral, clear language. Repeat this until clarity becomes natural. This will improve your stability and sharpen your perception. Chapter 10. Align your life with your principles. The Stoics believed that happiness is not the result of external success, but of internal alignment. When your actions, thoughts, and values move in the same direction, you create a strong foundation. Without this alignment, even achievement can feel hollow. The mind senses conflict when it speaks one thing and does another. This weakens both your confidence and your peace. To live well, you must first know your principles. These are not abstract ideas. They are practical standards that guide how you act, how you speak, and how you make decisions. Courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom form the base of Stoic virtue. These principles are not dependent on situation or mood. They apply in every condition. The Stoic examines each situation and asks, which principle applies here? What does virtue look like in this context? When your life is aligned with these values, your choices become simpler. You stop chasing approval. You stop reacting from emotion. You begin to respond from clarity. This removes many sources of stress. You know your duty. You know your role. You carry it out with focus. You measure success by how well your actions reflect your values, not by outcomes beyond your control. Living this way requires effort. You must reflect often. You must pause and examine whether your behavior reflects your beliefs. This is the practice of self-accountability. The Stoics recommended evening reflection for this reason. At the end of each day, they reviewed their actions, looking for moments of weakness, inconsistency, or virtue. This reflection was not about guilt. It was about improvement. When you live according to principle, your energy is conserved. You stop pretending. You stop changing your behavior to match shifting opinions. You become dependable to yourself and to others. Your reputation builds itself through repetition. You become someone others can rely on. You become someone who can rely on yourself. Choose one core principle you want to embody this week. Write it down each morning. Before each decision, ask yourself if it supports that principle. At night, review your actions through that lens. Was your behavior aligned? Where did you stray? How can you adjust? Repeat this with consistency. Over time, your life will reflect your values more fully, and that alignment will give you a deeper and more lasting sense of happiness.